Are you kidding me? Here we go again. We've got people that are making decisions based on political bias. We need to have a free America that calls it the way it is. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. But calling something based on political agenda is not acceptable. We need to hold the same standard for everyone. And I do mean everyone. The Doctor of Disaster is a wholly owned subsidiary of Warnick and Associates Incorporated. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Mark Warnick. I'm considered a subject matter expert in public safety by not one, but two different universities. So, I'm talking about the Atlanta shooting today. And I've got a real issue. When people use the law as a weapon, that isn't right. And when it's agenda driven, it makes it even worse. So let's look at the shooting in Atlanta. As we look through that, it's important to realize that the officers involved did the right thing. They absolutely did. Police officers have been trained on the use of force continuum. And it's very simple. If you use it properly, it works. The officers down in Atlanta used it properly. Let's discuss the use of force continuum, which no one that I've seen has discussed. First is the officer presence. They don't use any force unless they, at this point of the continuum, they just don't use force. They try and discuss things, they try to handle it. They even tell people, okay, you need to turn around, I need to handcuff you. No big deal. Verbalization. This is the second part of the continuum. And verbalization is when the officers issue calm, non-threatening verbal commands. Let me see your hands. Don't move. Stop. These are commands rather than just talking. So what we had in the Atlanta was, first they talked to him. They gave him all the field sobriety tests. Then they said, okay, turn around and we're going to have to place you under arrest. No physical force at this point. The guy takes off. So they step it up to the next part of the continuum. And they try empty hand control. They try to grab him. They use grabs and holds and joint locks, stuff like this, where they're trying to control him from escaping, possibly hurting others. And then you have less lethal methods. That's the next one in the continuum. And the less lethal methods is mace or blunt impact with a nightstick or chemicals, whatever. You can also use, and this is normally used in larger instance, but beanbag rounds and rubber bullets. If the suspect fights and poses an imminent threat, they have the right to fight back. By law, they have to. If the less than lethal methods don't work and it continues to escalate, they can use lethal weapons to gain control. Now, in the Atlanta case, what happened was he took, the suspect took the taser from the officers, which in and of itself is considered a deadly weapon by Georgia law. Okay? As he's running away, don't care if his back is to him or not, he spins to try to fire the weapon at the officers. Now, some of you are saying, it's just a taser. You ever been hit with a taser? What happens when people get hit with a taser is they lay there on the ground and convulse so that the other person can gain control. When you're an officer, if someone else gains control of your body, it can be deadly in a heartbeat. Let's talk about this. We've got a taser that would hit you, electrify your body, cause you to convulse, and the suspect could walk over, unsnap your holster while you're unable to move, and grab your weapon and then shoot you in the head. Oh, but there was two of them. Doesn't matter. If he can control one of them and get the firearm, it's all over. I mean, it's a shootout. Not only does that put the officers at risk, but it puts bystanders at risk. Well, he didn't have a gun. Well, guess what? If he had gotten that gun, other people probably would have been shot. The thing that we need to remember is that lethal force is acceptable in certain circumstances. So if we look at this, what we've got to do is the officers are supposed to come up and they're supposed to try and talk. Now, if this breaks in where the curve, let's look at this a different way. So what happens is the officer pulls up and he tries to talk it through. And if they won't talk, if they're disrespectful, if they're screaming, then he starts ordering, do this, do that. If that doesn't work, empty hand. And it just continues to escalate. They've worked this out over many years. And say hello to Oscar. They've worked this out over many years. And here's the thing. If they follow that continuum, then they've done everything that they can to de-escalate the situation. Now, that doesn't always hold true. And sometimes some people have to be shot for public and officer safety. No ifs, ands, or buts. So we don't, as officers, Oscar, get down. As officers, they don't want this. They try everything to avoid it. Now, where my real problem comes in is the Atlanta, Georgia District Attorney. You have got to be kidding me. This is a guy that 2 weeks before charged officers with assault with a deadly weapon because they pointed their tasers. And then 2 weeks later, when someone points a taser at officers, he's going to charge them with murder for defending themselves. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? This is what I'm talking about. This is the problem. We have people that are letting politics guide their decision. We don't want politics guiding our decision. We want a fair and just system where you hold everyone equally accountable. And that's not happening. It's not happening. Let me calm down for a minute because, as you can tell, I'm a little angry. So, what can we do to prevent what people are calling brutality and excessive force by the police? Well, the first thing you can do is not escalate. The number one problem we have right now, number one, is we don't show respect. We don't show respect for each other. We don't show respect for officers. And this is part of the problem where we have escalation. I'm telling you, that's it. Guess what? If a cop pulls you over, be polite, be nice, and answer his questions. It's that simple. If he asks you to get out of the car, or if he tells you to get out of the car, do it. If he asks you to put your hands behind your back, do it. Now, is there anything wrong with respectful questioning? No. Respectful. The problem is, most people today, especially those that end up shot or beaten or whatever, is they aren't respectful. It is written in there that they try everything and work up to it. Don't give them a reason to escalate the continuum. Don't give them a reason. Yes, sir, no, sir. And some people will say, well, I don't call anyone, sir. Well, guess what? Maybe if you did, there'd be less problems. Now, this Atlanta thing, they have charged the officer with murder, and they've charged his associate with another crime, his partner, whatever you want to call him. I guarantee you this is a bad mistake. And unless people stop putting the political baloney into our legal system, we are going to have major problems. I'm just saying. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. The one thing we need to do is make sure that our laws are fair and equitable across the board. Charging people with something that they are doing by the book is not the way. As part of making sure things are fair and equitable, we also need to realize that the law should be administered fair and equitable across all races, color, Lady Justice has a blindfold on for a reason. Judges that are giving harsh sentences or that are swaying back and forth based on race or politics need to be gone. Fair and equitable across the board. I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican. If we don't keep it fair and equitable, we get into the mess that we have now. It's unbelievable. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you and have a great day. Have a great week. And I'll try and get postings to you as quickly as I can. Thank you. Don't forget to get your copy of the Doctor of Disasters book, Emergency Incident Management Systems, at Amazon.com. This book is the go-to on managing disasters and on the Instant Command System.